Welcome to the Fat Boy Barbell Club. My name is Mike, and today we're going to talk about my first powerlifting meet, what I wish I knew beforehand, and what I learned from the entire experience. So I got serious about powerlifting in February of 2019, and I started with the 531 program, and I made a good bit of progress pretty quickly, which was nice. And I had planned to do my first powerlifting meet in 2020, but we all know how that went. 2020 was a dumpster fire. So I signed up for the USPA 5th annual South Carolina Open, and that was on February 20th of 2021. And that happened in Columbia, South Carolina, and I live about 3 hours away from Columbia. So I went primarily for deadlift because that's my favorite lift. And so I registered for push-pull, which is basically bench press and deadlift without equipment. I did the raw version, not the equipped version, so without equipment. And the first clip that you're going to see is my first bench press attempt, and that was at 315 pounds.
314.2 pounds. No question on the straight there, but unfortunately he rushed the rack command.
So I red lighted that lift because I moved to rack before the judge gave me the command to rack. Now I swear I heard them say rack, and that's why I started moving the bar. But you don't argue with the judges on the platform, and that leads us to lesson number 1. Wait for commands from the judges before you do anything. And so in competition, they're going to tell you when to start. They're going to tell you, once the bar touches your chest and is motionless, they're going to tell you to press, and then you're going to press to the top and you're going to hold it motionless. Once your elbows are locked and the bar is motionless, they will tell you to rack, at which point you put the bar back into the rack. So apparently I jumped that command. Now again, I swear I heard them say rack. But again, you don't argue with the judges, so listen to what the judges tell you on the platform. That is lesson number 1. And that also brings us to tip number 1. Bring somebody with you to help you in the warm-up area, and to help you keep track of the weights that you're going to be using, to help you keep track of how you're warming up and what you need to be doing, basically to help you think. Because like me, in my first powerlifting meet, I didn't even have time to think. I was so caught up in everything. I really wish I had had somebody back there with me in the warm-up area and going with me to the platform, and so that way I'd have had my guy doing the handoff for the bench press. The guy that did the handoff for the bench press for me did a good job. It was just different than what I'm used to. So that's something to think about if you're going into your first powerlifting meet. If you don't have anybody to go with you, what are you doing? Go make some friends, okay? But let's say all your friends are busy with like last minute events, or they get caught in bear traps or something like that. I don't know. But let's say everybody's busy and nobody can go with you. My best tip for you is write it down. So write down your warm-up sets. Write down your warm-up weights. And you also need to check beforehand to see if you have the chance to set a record. Like in one of these videos, I set a record for bench press for the state of South Carolina for my age and weight. I had no idea that was going to happen until like 2 minutes before the lift. I checked the website really quick, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a state record. So I had to tell the people at the table that are recording it and everything like that. So again, have somebody with you. If you don't have somebody with you, write it down. And another good thing that will help you in the warm-up area is you want to know your conversions from pounds to kilograms. that really messed me up. Because I'm used to training in pounds and everything in competition is in kilograms. Now, when you're telling them what weights you're going to lift, they have a chart there so you can look at it and you say, okay, this is pounds, this is kilograms, this is what I'm going to do. But when you're in the warm-up area, it's all kilogram plates. And so either you're doing some quick math in your head, it's like, okay, I got to double that and then add 10%. Wait a minute, is that right? I don't know. I don't want to do that kind of math. Like I said, I had a hard I could barely remember my name. I was so caught up in everything. So I don't want to do that kind of math while I'm trying to warm up for these lifts that I'm going to do. So write it down in kilograms. That way you know what your warm-up weights are. So this next clip is another bench press, and this time it's at 352 pounds. And that was, again, that was actually good enough for a state record for my age and weight. Again, I'm in the 40 to 44 age range, and I'm in the 275 pound weight class. So 352 pounds was good enough for a state record, but I didn't know.
And that's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen.
So you may notice in these videos that I'm not wearing elbow sleeves, I'm not wearing wrist wraps, and that's not because I didn't have them. That's because the ones that I had were not on the approved gear list for the USPA. And that brings us to lesson number 2. Check the rule book and the approved gear list for your powerlifting federation before you go to competition. Don't just assume that because you got it at Walmart that it's going to be on the approved list. And tip number 2, only put in your bag the stuff that you're going to need for that day. I had all the stuff in my bag that I normally take to the gym, which is a lot of stuff, you know, stretchy bands, you know, wrist wraps, different deadlift straps, my power hooks for my dumbbells, you know, all this stuff that I normally take to the gym, that was in my gym bag, and it just made it annoying to try to find what I actually needed when I actually needed it in the warm-up area. So, you know, again, number 1, check the rule book and the approved gear list so you know that what you have works for your federation, and then be sure that you have that stuff in your bag in the warm-up area so that you have everything you need to warm up, to be ready to lift on the platform. Because as soon as you step on the platform, you got a minute. It's time to go. It's not time to tighten your belt. It's not time to put your straps on. It's time to lift when you're ready to get on the platform. Okay, so again, be sure, bring your elbow sleeves, bring your wrist wraps, bring your knee sleeves or your knee wraps or whatever you're bringing, your weightlifting belt if you choose to wear one. We had to bring our own chalk because of everything that was still going on. We were having the meet, but everybody needed to bring their own chalk. So, which was nice because you didn't have to run around looking for chalk. You just had it right there. So that wasn't that bad. I'm not going to complain about that at all. Also, you want to bring some snacks because it's going to be a long day. Bring headphones so you can listen to the music that you like, because honestly, I was in the warm-up area and the music they were playing was crap. There may have been 1 or 2 songs that I actually enjoyed while I was there. The rest of the time, you know, you just kind of have to tune it out and do other things. But music really helps me. I like to listen to music when I train. So if you have music that you like to listen to, bring that with you. You know, you got your phone, you got your headphones, you can listen to that while you're warming up. So that was tip number 2. The next clip is my final bench press attempt, and this one I actually did not hit, and we'll talk about that in just a second.
Start! Press!
Come on!
Take it!
That's it. the rubbers.
So this press was at 385 pounds, which I have hit in training. That's why I picked it. I thought it was going to work. I knew it was a little on the heavier side, but I thought that I could get it. But I missed it in competition, which brings me to lesson number 3. Warming up at competition is very different than warming up in your gym, okay? There are lots of other lifters in the warm-up area. The equipment is different than what you're used to. It is very different. At competition, you don't get to lift on your schedule. You are lifting on their schedule. So, and there are lots of other lifters there, and you have to time your warm-ups right, and you have to realize that you might not be able to warm up the way that you traditionally warm up. So you got to have different ways of doing that. Typically you're going to be in a flight, which is about 10 lifters. And so think about that. You've got 10 lifters that have 3 lifts that they're going to be attempting, and they each have 1 minute per lift. So that's about 30 minutes per flight of lifters. So that's something to think about as you're warming up. So that lesson number 3 is warming up is very different. Tip number 3, work on your warm-up in your home gym. So timing is a big thing, and for me, there are some times when I'm working out that I feel like I don't really hit my really warmed up spot until after I've already done my heavy lift. So that's not what you want to do at competition. You want to be prepared and you want to warm up well. So time your warm-ups and figure out what progression works well for you so that you're going to have the best performance you can on that day. And that depends on your philosophy of competition. Some people go to competition and they're trying to set a personal record, and some people go to competition and they're going to hit numbers that they know they can hit. So some people want to get white lights on every lift. Some people want to make sure that they succeed at every lift they have. Some people want to test their limits at competition. You got to figure out which kind of lifter you are, and that's going to change the way that you train and the way that you approach your numbers for that specific lift. But again, tip number 3, warming up. Time your warm up so that you know how long it takes you to get to a good spot to lift. Because again, if you have a flight of lifters and that's 10 people and it's going to take them a minute per lift and they get 3 tries, that's 30 minutes minimum. Okay, so you got 30 minutes to warm up when the flight before you starts. So that's kind of how I figured it out, is that kind of halfway through the flight before me, that's when I want to start warming up, so that I'm not rushed, I'm not in a hurry, and I'm trying to get a bunch of lifting in 5 minutes, and then I'm not really warmed up, I'm tired, and I'm not going to have as good a performance on the platform. So figuring that timing out is going to help you a lot. So next up is starting the deadlift videos. So the first pull I did was 446 pounds, and that was easy. Big smile on my face. I'm having a blast. It's it's good times. I felt really good about the lift. And so lesson 4 from that is be prepared. This is going to be a long day. We started, the rules meeting was at 8 o'clock that morning. When you're seeing that the deadlift in the video, that's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So from 8:30, the rules meeting ended. I didn't even start lifting until noon. Like bench press started right after lunch, and we didn't start deadlifting until, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or later. And then we didn't leave the competition until after 7 o'clock at night, when all the awards were handed out. So it's going to be a long day. That was almost a 12-hour day. And a good portion of it, from 8:30 to at least noon, I didn't do anything. I watched other people lift because it goes squat, bench press, deadlift, and I wasn't doing the squat. I was doing push pull, so I'm doing bench press and deadlift. And so I watched everybody squat, and it was exciting. It was a ton of fun, cheering on a bunch of lifters. Everybody's there to do the same thing. I mean, it was exciting. I had a good time, but I didn't really think about that beforehand. And other people had told me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great. It's a long day, okay? So, be prepared for that. Entertainment, like if you need your phone, if you need a book, if you need headphones, crossword puzzle, I don't know, whatever it is that keeps you occupied so that you have something to do. You're not bored, you're not, anxious, because there's going to be plenty of that, I promise you, especially if it's your first meet. So be prepared. Be prepared that it's going to be a long day. Know that before you ever get there. So that's lesson number 4. Tip number 4, since it's going to be a long day, again, be prepared. You need to bring food. I didn't want to leave the area. So, thankfully I had people there with me, and my youngest sister was there. I was like, hey, can you run to this place and get me a cheeseburger? And she did, and it was great. But, in hindsight, that may not have been the best idea, because, if it was a cheeseburger that I cooked, I know what's in it. I know what kind of cheese I use. I know what kind of beef I use. I know what kind of bread I used. But you're just going to get a cheeseburger, even if it's from Five Guys or somewhere like that. It may not always be the same, and it might be a little bit different. And you don't want to go experimenting with new stuff. Oh, I've never had this protein bar before. Let's try that. You don't want to do that on the day of competition. Just think about having an upset stomach and trying for a max deadlift. And let me tell you, in case you don't know, it's difficult to go to the bathroom in a singlet. So think about that beforehand. Bring what you normally eat. It's better to eat that cold than it is to eat something that you're not familiar with and then take a chance of messing up, your lifts. I mean, it's like me. I trained for over a year for this one day. And I didn't want anything to mess that up. And there's part of me that says, hey, I could have been better prepared for that meet. And, if I had had this, that would have been better than the cheeseburger that I had. So think about things like that. Be prepared for that in advance. Along with be prepared, bring, in the warm-up area, there's usually bars and plates and benches. There's not a lot, there's no exercise bands, there's no pulleys, there's no things like that. So you have to be prepared to be able to warm up given limited equipment. So that's another thing to be prepared about. Also, you need to be prepared and plan for travel. Just in case you don't live where the powerlifting meet is. Like I said, this meet was in Columbia, South Carolina, and I live about 3 hours away from there. So the weigh-in was on Friday. They had a Friday morning weigh-in and a Friday afternoon weigh-in. So I got off work at noon on Friday, and we drove 3 hours to Columbia, and the weigh-in was from, I think, 4:30 to 5:30. And so I got there in plenty of time, but I felt rushed that entire afternoon. Looking back on it now, I should have taken Friday off and been able to drive there leisurely, gotten there early, been more relaxed. I would have felt better about it. Now weigh-in went well, but still, there's a lot of mental aspect that goes into it, and you want to be prepared for that. So we stayed Friday night. The competition's on Saturday, so we stayed in the hotel where the meet was, and then Saturday we checked out. And so we're driving, so it's, we didn't get done at the hotel with the meet until after 7 p.m. and the awards are over. And so then we're going to drive home, and, we had to stop and get dinner. We had to do, we didn't get home till after 11, and that was a long drive. So be prepared for that. Plan for travel accommodations and things like that. So, moving forward, I'm probably going to stay the night of the meet just because it's going to be easier and less stressful on me. And that's what you want. You want this to be a fun and enjoyable experience. You don't want it to be a stressful experience. The next clip is another deadlift, and this is my first attempt at 550 pounds. Let's just say I was disappointed. So that was my first attempt at 550 pounds. Now again, in training, I had hit 550 pounds. It was not a weight I should have missed, honestly. I don't know. I'm pulling. I almost had it, and my grip in my left hand, it just gave out. It made me really angry. I was not happy about that because I knew I almost had it, and my grip just gave out. So, lesson number 5. You cannot go down in weight in competition. So that weight was 550 pounds, and I missed it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just drop it a little bit and I'll go from there. You can't do that. I did not know. Once you pick a weight, you can't go down. You can either stay at that weight or you can go up. You cannot go down. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll do 550 again. But I knew I wasn't going to hit it because I missed it that time, and that time I was really ready for it. I almost had it. So I knew I wasn't going to hit that third lift, and that frustrated me a little bit. So again, lesson number 5, you cannot go down in weight in competition. So for me, going forward, I will pick weights that I know I can hit. Now again, I've hit that weight in training. I felt reasonably sure I was going to hit it. Just things didn't line up on the day of competition, and you know that's one of those things about competition. It's very different than training in your gym. So that was lesson number 5. You can't go down in weight. Tip number 5: work on your grip before the competition. Again, I almost had that deadlift, and what gave out was my grip, and it really made me mad. So I have switched all of my accessory training to fat grips, either fat grip or an axle bar, something where I have to use more grip. So even if I'm doing bicep curls or triceps, whatever it is, I'm using a fat grip or an axle, something where everything I do is grip training. So I've also switched in my heavier deadlifts. I've switched to an alternating grip. I had been doing double overhand, and I switched to the alternating grip so that the bar doesn't roll in my hands, because that's how it felt. It felt like it just rolled to my fingertips and uncurled my hand. So I switched my grip for heavier deadlifts. Lighter deadlifts, I'm still doing double overhand. So here is the third deadlift attempt, which is at 550 pounds, and I'll let you see how that one goes. Overall, my first powerlifting meet was an awesome experience. I learned a lot, and I'm going to be even better the next powerlifting meet. And I have the next one scheduled in July. And again, I'm hoping to set a deadlift record on that one, which is going to be fun. Probably the best thing that happened with this powerlifting meet is how many people that I know personally that got inspired by it. So my best friend was there with his girlfriend, my wife was there, my youngest sister was there. There were just so many people there supporting me, and that was awesome. And you know, basically everybody that knew anything about it or saw it or anything like that got excited about weightlifting, which is awesome. It's cool to be able to do it, but it's even cooler to inspire other people to do it. So that was probably the best thing that happened because of it, is other people got excited about weightlifting, and that was probably the coolest thing for me. If you like this video, be sure to click the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, you should do that too. If you have any questions or comments about the video, leave those in the comments down below, and I will respond to those. Thank you for watching the Fat Boy Barbell Club. And remember, strong is the new skinny.